Good morning and welcome back to Beef and Barnzy, special from Storm HQ. How are you today, Stu?
Awesome. I woke up and I, as the phrase goes, excellent.
Well, there you go. Yeah, well, we won't waste any time since he's already here on the screen. Special, as you saw on the board there, we are right at Storm HQ today, and we are down at the training lanes downstairs at the manufacturing facility. And joining me is a former league teammate, Team USA teammate. We never bowled in college together.
We didn't, but we are fellow Shockers.
We are
to say
Shocker alum and donators, and and now he is one of my bosses. The director of marketing here at Storm, Steve Klumpkin.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Stu. Thanks for having me, and welcome to Utah. It's been a long time since you've been here, like a couple of decades.
It's been a minute. It was in the late 90s. Last time I was here, Brian Berg drilled me a ball, and Dave Sims, who's,
president
of the company,
yes.
He was a new hire.
Yeah, so it's been a minute, as you say.
Let's quickly round up the PBA stuff first. I'll if you don't know the reference, I'll explain that in a little bit. That's in regards to New Mexico Open. Somebody asking about the board. Let's get that in a minute. PBA, we had another win for Global. Sean Rash coming away with his 17th title. That's two less than Chris. He has been racking them up pretty consistently the last few years. It seems like most of his victories recently have come on the short pattern, but he pretty much makes it every time, and it seems like he wins almost every time that he makes it at the moment. He's on, I think it's actually going a little bit under the radar how good Sean's been bowling on TV, the last 5 or 6 or 7 times he's been on. Doherty bowled incredible, showing why he deserves that second team All-American berth. Leading all weekend, averaging, I think, 247, I think it was, somewhere in that region. Him and Sean, 249, there you go.
By 6.5 pins and over Sean, and more than 10 pins over everyone else. It was,
it seemed like the big drama really came down to the $20,000 point race. Kind of exciting down the stretch. I actually thought Simo won because, of course, I forgot that the PBA scoring is idiotic, and they didn't take out the people who didn't make the next round. So it said Darren Tang was 9th, even though he made the top 8. So I thought that Darren had ended up coming like second by 15 points, but it turned out he actually won by 25 points, I think it was, or 35 points in about 5,000. So that was pretty much as close as it got. I know that Simo wasn't super thrilled by the pair he got to finish on. I had a little bit of a chat with Sean Ryan. He said that at 36 feet, it felt like the lane that Simo was on went straight downhill, and at 38 feet, it went straight back uphill. I don't know that Simo had a bag of tricks that was going to work on that. It's a little difficult to loft it over the entire pattern. Unfortunately for him, he came up just a little bit short, despite going third, 13th, 3rd, 6th. That came up a little short. Darren Tang getting the Darren bowled unbelievable as well during the summer swing. But getting that
offhand,
I think he had something like 12th, 7th, 13th, 1st, and 7th, maybe something along those lines. I think he had 3 top 10 finishes and Simo had 4.
So let us know in the comments what you think. I mean, Darren won a tournament. Obviously, and obviously the way our point system is weighted, that's pretty heavy. But And Simo beat him in 4 out of the 5 tournaments and finished third in the one that he didn't beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Should he have lost? Or is it right because he didn't win one? I think you can make a logical argument for both, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
Here's my only I'm on Team Simo for that in just the results. However, and this is a big however, I would give the nod to Darren because Simo managed to finish ahead of him in a doubles tournament, which I don't think should have counted at all. So in that terms, like, I'm not saying that the tournament shouldn't count for a PBA title. I just don't think that when somebody else influences your result, that it should count for points. So that's the only like caveat that I've got.
Question though, would you feel that way in a regular doubles event? Or is it because it's non-PBA players?
Yeah, I'm still a bit. I mean, I guess if it only counted half as much, I'd probably feel that it was okay.
I think you could probably make an argument for half points for a doubles thing, but
it just felt like it weighed a lot. It weighted a lot in a 5 tournament swing. So, but anyway, either way, they were definitely the 2 most consistent players, without doubt.
far and away.
So they came away with the win. My pick before it started was EJ to win because he usually dominates these events.
The super regional format is extra frame Hall of Fame is actually what.
Yeah, and the fun part of it is EJ was the person who came up with that terminology.
Yeah, it wasn't us trolling him. He was like, no, I'm in the extra frame Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Craig, it's right because you know how the event is run from the start and you know where the finish line. You're missing the point. The point is, should it be like that?
Yeah, because effectively,
because the rules are the rules and they've been that way. It doesn't mean they're maybe the right rules, or maybe they're perfectly right. You said we have a skewed vision sometimes from inside our own bubble. So we're just interested. What would you run it the same way if you had it to do over?
Yeah, like, so just for perspective, 2nd and 5th is about the same as 1st.
Yeah.
So if you finish 2nd and 5th in one tournament, you're about level with the person who finishes 1st and 0 in the other tournament. So we don't necessarily have a decision one way or the other. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we think for the most part on it. But
somebody's already asking Steve Ball questions. Steve isn't in R&D anymore, but I'll ask him. Someone says, it just moved. Any thoughts about a urethane with a physics weight block, the Astro pitch, maybe? So there you go.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I mean,
going back to your points thing. So it's 2,500 points for first, 15 for second, 1,150 for third, 950 for fourth, and 850 for fifth. So there's more points between first and second than you get for finishing fourth.
Yeah.
So, Doherty not winning the last match actually cost him an automatic bid at the Weber Cup because there's 1,000 points difference between those two. To get another 1,000 points, you'd have to finish third and the other person not enter.
Yeah.
Or finish 40.
So let me throw this out then. So
44.
So if, for example, like what you guys are talking about, it almost reminds me a little bit of like the way that they do the Team USA, where you add up your points for your finishes. So if you're first and last, that would be significantly worse than second and fifth.
Right.
Yeah.
And your money would be better, but your points would be worse. Yeah. And at that whole thing has a different caveat too, because we had tournaments with 150 entries and we had tournaments with 80.
Just quickly, I absolutely detest the Team USA format. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. And when you're trying to select a team, you know what the patterns are before you go. So therefore, why would you not want someone who can dominate on 2 of the patterns and be terrible on 2 of the patterns? Because you know that if they pick short and long, and this guy finished first on short and long, but he finished 87th on medium, that's the guy you want, not the guy who finishes 8th every time.
Right.
So just throwing that out there. Somebody just
Charlie Tapp has actually just come in and said, "Is Steve really a personal friend of Paul Wolf?" I'll hang up and listen.
That's a true story. Yes. That's a true story.
Brian brings up a good point. It says maybe money and points should coincide somehow, and maybe we can get back to that. But the main reason why money and points aren't together and why we don't just use money is because the USBC tournament specifically, and you had a situation where a major was going to count 8 times less than winning another major.
Yeah, right now there's no consistency like there was once upon a time where all the majors paid a certain amount, the regular tournaments
or even close.
Yeah, we had a situation this year where one tournament paid $1 million total prize fund, and then we had 5 separate tournaments that averaged out at $50,000 total prize fund. So
this makes it a little difficult.
1/3 the amount of points, but 1/50th the amount of money. And so you won $250,000 for one of them, and you won 10 for the other. So Tommy Jones, for instance, was 10th or 11th in points, and has $30,000 in earnings because his best tournaments were at the USBC and the side events of the World Series and the summer events.
He also, I think he probably made the round robin at the US Open because he always makes the round robin at the US
That's
Open.
what I said, the USBC events where he's
Sorry. I wanted to give Tommy his props. He makes it every single time, and he finishes 13th every single time.
Yeah, in that range, somewhere between 10th and 13th, I believe. Again.
Yeah. Before we get on to New Mexico Open, one of our sponsors has a tournament coming up, and it is in Fort Myers, so over at Lightning Strike. So they put together a little commercial for you guys. So let's have a watch of that. So there you go. Saturday the 28th, that's coming up this weekend. 1 o'clock start, 12 o'clock check-in. $150 entry fee. They're bowling on Dragon. So check it out. Insider tip, if you've got a reality, take it. It strikes like a mother in Fort Myers on the longer patterns. You can watch a video of me letting Walter Ray know that that's the case. 588 for 2 games, I believe it was.
You haven't seen that. Stu taking down, the GOAT. It's worth a watch. But Stu and I bowled the tournament there. Both of us used realities. Both of us shot 300. And
one of us got paid for it.
One of us got paid for it.
Someone's smiling, someone's frowning.
So, right, we bowled in New Mexico this weekend. It was covered by Bowlstream TV, which has recently been taken over by Emil Williams. Let me just share my screen because I've got me throwing a strike. So let's. Let's see if we can find one more quickly. They were miserable, just so you know.
The cut was under, once again, correct?
23 under.
23
minus
under.
Minus 77 to cash. Oh, I didn't do this very well. I should have prepared better. I guess he didn't go back to me. Yeah. Minus 77 to cash. The last cash, I believe, was 500, but I'm not 100% certain on that. I came 13th. It paid 1,100, which was pretty nice. If you bowled on Friday, there was prizes for winning the squads. It actually paid down quite well. I think I heard somebody came 6th on the squad and got $120 back. $120, which for a $270 entry fee was a good deal. Trey says 21 of the 32 came from C&D squads. I would say that was probably a reasonable reasonable percentage given what I saw of the accomplished bowlers who played on Saturday as opposed to Friday. I think there was no doubt that they were more difficult on Friday. But I don't think that the squads were as strong. And that's why they offered the cash for the Friday squads to encourage people to bowl on Friday. There was also 3 squads on Saturday, and only 2 on Friday. So that also balances out as well. I guess that's C and D is only the first 2. But anyway,
yeah. Announcement. What do we think about the USBC tournaments raising the first place to 100,000?
I think it's awesome.
It's fantastic.
First
and foremost, it's going to be great for the women who bowl the U.S. Open this week.
Well, it's going to be great. It's going to be great for a couple of them who finish in the top 2 spots. That's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't see the rest of the prize fund, but I'm assuming. I mean, it's nice to have a big prize fund like that. Hopefully, it's not all on top, but it may be very difficult for it not to be all on top.
As well. Let's just quickly give props out to Dylan. That is part of Dylan Taylor won, and Dylan usually bowls in long sleeve button up shirts because he comes straight from work to bowl because he's a Phoenician. He lives in Phoenix. We bowled league with him for a long time. He's a good dude. In his speech when he beat Frankie in the final, twice, in fact. After, the funny part about this is Frankie bowled Dylan in the winner's bracket, and Dylan had 130 in the 8th, and Frankie had 290 going into the 10th. And Dylan turned to us in the crowd and goes, "That's why he's fucking Francois." So we were joking with him as to whether he wanted to bother bowling the next game. And he goes, "Well, I need some practice for the losers bracket." Well, he said, "Au contraire, mon frère." Let me see if I can just find this video file, because I took a video of him sealing the deal in the 10th frame. So here it is. Like I say, Dylan's fairly unconventional with his style. He averages 225 or 230 in league. He needed 8 pair 8 to seal the deal, and the lanes were absolutely disgusting by this point. And here we go. There's the winning deal.
What did he say there?
I think he said that's good. Yeah, coming down the stretch, that right lane was appalling. Frankie bowled 190 the first game, and Dylan shot 2-0, I believe, was the way it went down the first match, or 210. Dylan ran the ladder. He took out Matt Zweig, another global staffer, in the first round, in the first match of the staff ladder. And then the semi-final, he took out possibly Arizona's best bowler currently, Cortez Schenk, in the semi. And I think that Cortez was kind of the reason why Frankie had so much troubles. Cortez used the proton physics from about 5th arrow. Didn't particularly leave Frankie a lot of room to move. So Frankie was trying to use his trusty astrophysics in the first match, kind of throwing it over it a little bit. And he had a lot of trouble with the right lane, but not that much trouble with the left lane. But he kind of was like, it doesn't look like that's going to get that much better at the left lane. So he came back and he had a little chat with me, and he took out his hustle link and tried to go a little straighter where Dylan was. Well, the problem was that solved the solution on the right lane, really, but it completely screwed him on the left lane. But it's hard to want to throw it 18 miles an hour straight-ish on the right lane and throw it over the top of it at 12 miles an hour on the left lane. So Frankie actually got up he came back and he was chatting to me, and I laughed with him.
Huh. So he was. So he was chatting with him, and see what happened was that
yes,
that was good timing.
There we go.
Yeah. He came back and he laughed with me a little bit about his scenario, and I said, "Well, why don't you just go back to doing what you were doing for the 10 frame on the left lane?" I said, "I don't want to add any more thoughts into your head, but that's just what you maybe." So he went up on the right lane and he hit the pocket and he flat 10'd, which got a round of applause. Being as I think they were currently on 3 consecutive opens on that right lane at that point. So that got a round of applause. And then he said, screw it. And he went back and he threw the soft one and he got the first shot in the 10th. And he just got a little bit too far right on the last one. He left a bucket. So he spared it to force Dylan to show up. And sure enough, Dylan did show up. If you want to watch the title match, head over to Bowlstream TV. Like I say, Emil Williams covered the whole event from start to finish. You can look at the archives there. He's got a bunch of stuff up. You can watch Steve's squad on Friday. He had a couple of games.
I don't know what you're going to kind of learn from that, but you're
going to learn they were hard.
That's about it.
It is the thing when they're that hard. You get caught early and have a bad game. You get to chasing. It's
hard to dig out.
It's brutal.
I also think that in Steve's defense, it's hard to judge the scoring pace on Friday. I think if I'd have told Steve, hey, minus 23 is your target, I think it might have gone a lot differently. Right. Because once he kind of like abandoned trying to create some shape and just sort of like played the 3-pin, you had a pretty decent reaction to finish. But it's a little difficult to want to do that when you feel like you need to get some score back.
Right.
So I mean, Jim
Pratt. That's not a PBA tournament. We got a question in from the masses, or my other boss.
You're talking about troublemakers.
Tell us how your path through bowling. For those that may not know, why did you not bowl full time on tour? Favorite bowling stories. The next part we're skipping over, but dirt on staff members.
Oh, not
That's right.
It's our show.
That is probably a little different path than maybe a lot of people, but maybe there are a lot of similarities too. I mean, it's tough to say. I grew up, first job was in a bowling center. I think a lot of people started, my first job was actually at the Showboat, which I think a few of us have bowled there. Chris, you made a few coins there at a tournament called the High Roller back in the day.
I vaguely remember it. Yeah.
Yep. But
and the aforementioned Paul Wolf.
Yes.
With Daryl.
That's right. Yep. Daryl Smith. A lot of good people there. And so that was where I started. But I went there on the Team USA. At that point, Gordon Vatican had said, hey, you're going to school part-time at UNLV, and it's probably going to take many, many years to get your degree. If you want to get your degree faster, probably a better path is go to school full-time. Forget about, working in the pro shop. I was at Sam's Town at that time, but forget about that and just kind of focus on the school. So I did that. And then when I graduated, it was really kind of right at a point where it was the PBA had kind of dipped down, right? I mean, it had dipped down. It was a lot of tournaments in the late 80s and early 90s. And then it had actually kind of taken a little bit of a downturn. So when I graduated college, I was actually looking forward to competing on tour. But unfortunately, it was like they were losing a lot of sponsors. The tournaments were, and the people that I had spoken with and talked to in the industry said, well, it's kind of tough to say exactly what the future is going to be. If I graduated 5 years earlier or 5 years later, which is when we had, Chris Peters and Microsoft and Real Networks guys had taken over, and there was a lot more prize money, Rob Glazer, I probably would have joined tour then. So it was really just the only reason I didn't bowl on tour was really just kind of a matter of when I graduated college, honestly, and what the state of the PBA was then. And then there was a new up-and-coming brand in bowling called Storm, and I started working here in 1996. And, of course, we're not as up-and-coming as we were 25 years ago now. But it was, And I still do get to compete, like in the, the high-scoring affairs like the New Mexico Open now and again. And so I still do get to bowl. But I enjoy bowling the Masters and stuff like that as well.
Idaho Open champion?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Idaho
I saw
Open.
the trophy.
That's right. You saw the trophy. So
TV show at the Masters.
Yeah. So
what?
Yeah.
TV show at the Masters.
TV show at the Masters. Yep. Which I still give props to Stu. I do. one of the big things with bowling is looking at your ball reaction. It's not just execution, and that's really why you're here too, Chris, right? I mean, Your execution's good, but because of working with, guys like Mark Baker and stuff.
Yeah.
But, it's not just only throwing it. It's still, you got to see things the right way, and you got to have your balls laid out, and you got to use, you got to have the right approach to the pocket. It's not just, it's not just one little component there. So
speaking of which, that's why I'm here.
That's
so
right.
I came here to see the guys that are the smartest guys in the room. So this might be the real PhD right here. Him, Alex Hoskins, Hank Wimmersheim, these guys are they're getting me up to speed on things that they're doing. I think there's some fairly revolutionary things coming forward that you'll see in the relatively near future that have opened my eyes, and they're doing things that other people aren't doing, and breaking through some old stereotypes, and it's kind of a bowling Mythbusters.
Yeah,
so
a little bit of that.
I think you'll be excited when that kind of information comes out, that's what we do. I went to Mark Baker last weekend, saw him, spent 7 hours bowling with him to get physical game straight, and then come here to get with the guys that know the most about bowling balls and make the best ones in the world. So we're down here. We drilled a few balls yesterday, did some things, some testing, and get my specs, and then add in some of the knowledge that they're adding to it, and the new 2LS system as well that we're going to go through more today.
There's a lot of good stuff, and there's just a lot of there's a lot of technology and research and information that goes in behind the scenes here. A lot of it is information that we try to make really available to the general consumer and the average bowler that's trying to figure out, like, what's the right layout for my ball. You used to have, and there's still, believe me, there's still hundreds and hundreds of very good pro shops around the country that are able to give you the best layout and advice and way to adjust your equipment, your arsenal for different strategies. But there's a lot of people who are looking for help and are having a hard time finding it, and that's one of the other reasons why, we made the decision several years ago to make some of this information more readily available to the public. And that's where we came out with our, we had our vector layout system. We've got our conversion system that adjusts your layouts to when we weren't allowed to use balance holes anymore. And that greatly affected the dynamics of the core inside by taking away an extra hole. So it's okay, if you want this reaction with this layout that had your balance hole, you remove that. This is how you need to adjust your layout, because just removing the balance hole in several cases, some cases not as much, depending on what you were using and what kind of equipment, but in several cases, you were seeing a loss of 4, 5, 6 boards of motion, and all of a sudden the lane looked completely different.
Could be as much as that. Sure, there's 2 handers. This is our old teammate from Flight Lanes.
Yes,
the Golden All-Star boys.
Yeah.
I love the fact that she refers to you as Mr. Barnes. It's because you're significantly older than me and Steve.
It's actually just respect, not age. Steve and I are relatively similar in age.
We are similar. That is true.
So just quickly on that Pro Shop thing, if you go on Storm Bowling's website and you click on the right side, you can click Find a Pro Shop. And if you stick your zip code in, it'll show you all of the Storm VIP shops in the area. So if you're ever in need of of finding a pro shop, that's a good reference point.
Yep.
Love Jones. All right.
Yeah, he needs to find all the scams he can get.
I need him. If I can't be the smartest guy, go see the smartest guy.
There it is.
The Badger urethane. That's the Stu scammer.
Oh.
Those of you who don't know, the story is Stu led qualifying in Shawnee. I
didn't really just lead either. The previous squad I bowled 300, 289 to start the block.
Yeah, he led by a lot. I was the last person in. I beat our.
I was supposed to have buys.
I broke the heart of our special guy that he bowls every tournament. He's a grinder, and I beat him by 2 pins.
Oh.
To bowl Stu the first thing in the morning. Of course, we rode together. So I did with any oil.
Did you spike each other's coffee or anything?
No, I just used urethane on something that absolutely needed no urethane whatsoever.
It was 45-foot wall, and Barnes couldn't throw a strike, so he threw the urethane and ruined the lane. principally the clip nose.
That sums it up.
Yeah. I did average 230 also, but while I was doing it. But
well,
yeah, when his ball wiggled for the second time, and it was. He actually took it very well too. I'm not sure
Really?
I would have been. He goes.
I stayed around.
Yeah,
you
didn't leave.
had the car keys.
He
That's
didn't leave
why.
without me.
Yeah, you had. Oh, okay. You had the keys. Yeah, that's funny.
No, I drove.
Yeah, he drove. So
Andy was still nice to you.
I was
Wow.
I was a little bit in trouble there.
Wow.
I actually
Well, you
didn't really think I could get it to hook enough, so I wasn't really going to do it. It was mostly for show, and it just and then all of a sudden I threw a couple of strikes and I went, well, that's no worse than what I did yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
But
but anyway,
Cool.
with it being release day Friday, and we have Zen Master and we have RSTX2, still a mouthful. Steve, what are your thoughts? We have some Zen Master content on our website, on our YouTube channel. We just put something up today. We put up a match from the hardest bowling center in America. It was a slugfest between me and Chris in Coldwater, Ohio. I'm not sure. It's more for the fun of it rather than to showcase the ball. I'm not sure anybody's running out to buy a Zen Master after watch me and Chris bowl that match, but it was a bit of fun.
so hard. Oh my God.
Just one second. Clint says, just say X2. I get it. It's just a little awkward because there's a UC2 as well. So it's just a little awkward at times.
There was a Global X too.
Yes. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Really not that one. This one's going to be a lot better than that one.
So what are your thoughts on the two balls, Steve?
Yeah.
Let's start with Zen Master.
Yeah. Zen Master. I mean, there's the hottest ball, and really it's taken off as the best-selling ball in the history of global, right? I mean, Zens, you look around and, just to go back to New Mexico Open real quick, Stu, I think you used that for a majority of the time in qualifying there, right? 7
of the 8 games.
Yeah, and that's a ball, and that's really been it's clean, but it's a low RG, higher diff symmetrical that really just kind of keeps coming on the back end. And the one thing most people like about the Zen, it really, for being such a shiny cover, is not that sensitive to the oil, especially down lane. That's one of the real big things and the real kind of useful, purposeful things, which a lot of people do find, or sometimes when they go to the shiny pearls and the symmetricals, they see it. Sometimes it's great, but then as the oil kind of moves around, sometimes it makes creates a shape they weren't looking for. So the Zen Master is one that you're going to see with the solid textured cover with the same core. And it's going to pick up and read the mid lane earlier and be a better, more useful ball when the lanes are a little bit fresher, but especially on the heavier volume and loaded up front, and maybe a little bit cleaner, lower friction surface if it's a little bit of a newer center or a newer lane surface, or something where the oil's piled up in the front of the lane a little bit better. Rolls extremely well and just transitions smoother, and it gives you a little bit more control. It'd be more of a ball you would start with and then transition into the Zen, the original Zen after that. Once it starts to read a little quick and you start to move in and you lose a little bit of your shape, then you would go to your Zen and it would kind of pick up where the Zen Master left off from there.
And this is exactly what Steve's talking about on the fresh, because it loses energy at the end. It can. And if you're, you don't bowl in as many tournaments and you want to bowl as something that's just a little bit stronger, 3 to 4 feet earlier maybe than a Zen.
Yeah.
You can do what Stu has done, which is he's put a little polish on it. I myself hit it with 2,000 and 3,000 and smoothed out the surface a little bit, and then it just became a little bit more responsive. It's not as responsive as the Zen, but it reads 4 feet earlier, strong Zen basically.
Yeah, and that's important because like for all of us and everybody watching the show, we all have different styles, whether it's our speed or our rev rate or tilt or whatever. They read the lane a different way. So yes, we do have to pick a surface when we sell a ball. We can't just release 8 different surfaces with a new bowling ball and pick your option with what it comes from the factory. So you do have to customize or match it to what.
And I do think our general
Mhm.
crowd here is on a little bit on the higher end of things, and so
Yeah.
we try and we get it that
Yeah.
you have to pick something and it
Yeah.
has to fit in a line, and
Yeah.
and that's what we do a lot here is talk about how you might be able to tailor it. Like somebody like
Yeah.
Trey Ford, he's two-handed,
Yes.
not super high speed, so his rev rate to speed ratio is
Mhm.
he's a little rev dominant, and
Yeah.
so for him he's probably gonna
smooth it out.
going to
some.
smooth it out just a
Yeah.
little bit because he didn't necessarily want
Yeah.
shine. There's plenty of balls that are
Yeah.
shine for him
Yeah.
that he has access to, but he can take a little bit of that cover down to 2,000, let it shine up, lane shine a little bit, and then it becomes
Yeah.
something a little bit more responsive but at the upper
Mhm.
end of his arsenal, and that's probably almost as strong as he's going to need.
Yeah, for me, I could see it being a replacement for a few people for their idol. I think it's thinking about it over time. I think it's probably as close to that. I don't think it's going to be quite as big a difference between, like, for me, the idol has the biggest difference of all time between a ball when it's dull and out of the box to when you shine it. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, for me, how much that ball changed. Like, it went from being like super slow, super early, really good control ball. You shine it, and suddenly I found like it came off the back of the pattern really sharp almost. The Zen Master isn't quite as much like that, but it's definitely, for me, it's between, in box finish right now, it's between an Axiom and a Phase 2 of the balls that are in the range right now.
Yeah.
With polish on it.
No, just
out of the box.
Out of the box. Like, if all three balls are out of the box, I think the Axiom is the earliest and the smoothest. I think that the Zen Master would be next, and the Phase 2 would be the cleanest. So that's from my, non-technical testing, the eyeball test, as Skip Bayless would call it. Moving on a little bit, let's have a chat about the X2. Why is it different from a UC2? I think is the question I get asked the most. So what's your take on it, Steve?
Yeah, the biggest thing, when you're looking at it, and just as far as reaction wise, the core that we have for HP3 and for the Rubicons, whether it's a UC2 or you're looking at the solid version, but is the degree of asymmetry. So you have a higher degree of asymmetry in our HP4 line. So when you're looking at the X1, which I believe I just heard listening to the stream, but I think that was the ball that Dylan used when he won and when he beat Frankie this weekend. No, that was mentioned on there, but okay,
X1.
The X1, yeah. So the X1.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the X2. Sorry, my bad.
No. But
a personal favorite is of Beef.
Yeah,
he just bombed them with that ball.
Yeah,
at the weekend.
Yeah,
the weekend tournaments for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a as far as numbers wise in RG, it's a little higher RG shape than UC2 and a higher degree of asymmetry, which I know does affect some different bowlers in different ways. A lot of times the high end, the higher rev or rev dominant type of player uses asymmetry, and it ends up giving them a little bit more of a smoother type of a transition. But there definitely are some players, whether they're more of a speed dominant or a little bit more balanced or just a little bit lower rev rate, that as you do amp up that degree of asymmetry, that you do get a more pronounced break point. But, for me, as far as difference with my feet, it's usually maybe 1 to 2 boards different, where actually my feet a lot of times have been in testing and comparison in a couple different patterns between the X1 and the X2. My feet would be a couple of boards right with the X2. But as far as break point position, it can be 3 boards or so to the right of where it was with the X1. And it makes that all up on the back end. So for me, it's a very, very clean and very angular, very noticeable shape off of the back of the pattern, and it's a big skid flip ball.
In the same vein, so he has an X1. Getting the X2 pinned down as a complement to it, is that worth it?
Well, if you're looking at it and you have a pin down layout in the X1 as well, or a pin up X1.
It doesn't say.
I'm thinking by the way he's wording it that maybe the X1 is up,
is the pin up,
and
so
the X2 is down.
Yeah, so I would actually do the opposite. Like if I were to have an X1 with the pin up, and that's going to make the break point a little bit more noticeable. With the X2, I don't think that you want to take away some of that reaction at the break point, which is what would happen if you put the pin down. So I would go with the medium to shorter pin buffer like you have in the X1 with a pin up. And then if you did the exact same or similar layout, or maybe even a touch shorter pin buffer, you would just be amplifying the
There'll
difference.
be
enough difference between the two. But yeah, my fear would be if you put the pin down in the X2, that you might be taking out the purpose of the ball, basically.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to do a pin down layout, then you should probably just do another X1. I think that would give a bigger difference. I think if you do an X1 down and an X1 up, it'll be a bigger difference. Whereas you do the X1 up and the X2 down, you might make those balls a little closer together. So I think I completely agree. For me, I found that the X2 is more continuous than the X1. Than the UC2. I found that the UC2 is a little sharper, but gets a little more forward once it makes that maneuver. So, but we've only really bowled on it, and I've only really had a chance to use it in Coldwater and Minster, which were, they were a little challenging to say the least. And then this weekend in New Mexico. So I'm actually going to try and shoot some footage with that today so we can get a video up on Thursday or Friday.
We had a lot of ball reaction the last month. It's been the grinder.
Yeah.
The grinder tour here.
Yeah.
As of late.
Sounds like
this question was for Stu, but pin down UFO alert. What would you do with an X2 to keep them far enough apart?
Perfect question. I have a pin down UFO alert and I have a pin up use X2, and they are quite different.
There you go. Just go up with the X2 and that should separate them.
Yes. For me, I don't mind the UFO alert down because I feel like that UFO core flares so much that if you go down, you get the flares a little tighter, and I think it stores a little bit better. So you can get that kind of more continuous motion. The hybrid cover. Steve, most embarrassing thing of 2021 for me, ball-wise, drilled that thinking it was a pearl. Didn't realize it was a hybrid. Could have read the box. Probably could have read Schlem's email.
It's in the details sometimes.
Did a Facebook Live.
Here's an interesting question. I know it's been asked a lot, but maybe not recently. It's never been asked on our show. Who came up with fragrances?
Oh, yeah, good question. That actually was an idea that came up from our owner and CEO, Bill Chrisman, himself, actually. And just a quick story on that. Before he got in the bowling business, he sold industrial cleaners and chemicals. And for anybody who's ever, opened up a Pine Sol or notice when you're using anything, that's meant to remove grease and clean floors and countertops and stuff, it usually could smell like, and it could, you're trying to eliminate some of those odors. So you're adding they smell like could be lemon or pine, like in Pine Sol, or orange. There's like the orange blaster, that. So
I was saying the ones that don't have any fragrance in them. Those are they're strong
and strong.
And
yes.
So
yeah. So that was basically Bill's kind of idea was from his background in chemicals and from chemistry. Saying, hey, this is something that could really help differentiate, our equipment, our storm line. So, and actually, we were just talking about this show last night, Chris, with the Paul Fleming. He made the show with the eraser in Albuquerque at the Masters.
Yeah.
And that was right when we had introduced the Power Bolt and the eraser, which were the first two balls that we ever had that had fragrance in them with orange and green apple. But yeah, it actually did come from Bill Chrisman himself. Yeah.
We were talking about him. It's a very interesting background that Bill has, just from the chemical business. He's just a guy who knows how to do stuff.
Yeah,
he knows how to sell. He knows people, and he. Yeah, it's not an engineering degree. It's a real world in the streets, and that's how the Bowlers Company started.
Yeah,
it's still full of people who are invested in and live and breathe bowling, and all up and down the company. All the way around. And
here's an interesting question. It says, hypothetical qualifying block. Would you rather shoot 150, then 300, or two 225s? For me, it depends on whether the tournament's paying anything for shooting 300. And then on top of that, it also depends on which order.
Yeah, 300, 150, not so much.
I don't really fancy that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. In general, I would say that you would kind of like the 225 reaction.
Yeah, I certainly, my personality suits that much better, for sure.
Hey, for Linda's comment there was a fragrance in the bolt, and your bolt smelled like first place check in the Queens.
Smelled like cash.
It smelled like money.
It smelled like money.
Right.
Brad Angelo had a great quote when he first came over to Storm. He threw the high road and he goes, "You know what that one smells of? Happiness." Brian says, "How far are we away from the bacon smell?" You get asked that one a lot.
So many times.
If you could bottle that one up,
I know.
I mean, they might all just smell like bacon.
I wish we could.
And this one, the eraser, talking about the meteor. You know, the ball did remind me a little bit of that. Was the ball we just tested? The Electrify Solid, when we did the ball review on. Still another 2 months away from it being out, but same color.
Yeah.
Somewhat similar shape. So
Frank says, when will the Hype Pearl be announced? Released rather. 29th of October is the answer to that question.
Our buddy Merv.
Hey, brother Merv.
Yeah, he said that Steve chose to not go on tour because he wanted to make trips to Singapore earlier.
That's right.
And this is why we're married. God bless you. Loves the smell of money. Fortunately, not the smell of spending it.
Right.
It's what makes her the perfect woman.
Oh, Chris, you said the sweetest things.
Yeah. I am a romancer.
Such a romantic, yes.
Oh my God! Here, look at this. Look at this. Vegemite, Marmite scent. Well, they'll either love it or hate it.
Yeah, well.
Wow.
The company where your balls smell good to use for the tour that wants them groomed as well. This commercial brought to you by Storm and Manscaped.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll leave Chris to get on with his day, I think.
We do have some work to get done. They have a lot of repairing to do to get me back as competitive as possible. So
you do seem a bit happier than you were on our drive home from Ohio, though, Chris. So it feels like you've got a little bit of the pep back in your step. Hopefully, it doesn't get smacked out of you this weekend at the
Ironman.
Strolling.
Yeah,
got my new balls, got my new weight. We're all good.
The good news is I
sorted.
put the knife away, so it's going to take a little bit longer.
I was about to say 178 first game. Fuck!
It's funny because it hasn't happened yet. You know that,
right? Oh shit! But it'll be all good. We just need 300 from Ryan that first game.
Yeah.
Then you can be like, screw it, let's go home. Hey, Stoney, let's get round to Platinum Ford. So, for those of you who don't know, one of our show sponsors, Platinum Ford, is they have put up a brand new 2021 F-150 for any non-PBA guy who can shoot 300. Well, I guess the first person to shoot 300 this weekend. It's going to be a game if they shoot 300 because I don't anticipate a tournament called the Ironman being soft.
Yeah.
Can't really imagine that.
Compared to what we bowled in the last 4 tournaments, or you've bowled in the last 4 tournaments, and me in the last 3, I don't think they'll be a lot harder than that.
Yeah.
However, 300 wasn't exactly right around the corner in any of those. So
no, I think I tapped out at the front 3 in New Mexico. But I told Mike Miller, I said, hey, Mike, I mean, I understand that what we're bowling on is pretty tough. But in comparison to the last 4 weeks, this is like a picnic in the park for me, just in comparison, because, you know, the rev rate was a lot lower. So the lanes weren't changing as much. And like, you know, you're not as stressed about having to score as high and all those good things. And Mike, I think he's a little frustrated about the PBA scoring pace on some of the TV shows. I got a 5 or 10 minute chat about how ridiculous it was that the lanes were that easy. And yeah, I said, well, the last few weeks. And he goes, well, good. About time.
This Mike Miller?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is ironic because for those of you that don't know, I bowled with Mike and he was kind of the original 2-finger, no thumb guy, one hand.
Yeah.
4 titles, great at creating area.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted me to tell everybody.
Although that's not the way he separated himself.
If I remember the story right, too, when he had first switched to it, he bowled the show, but we had a super regional there back in the day, 300 plus entries. And he was using a plastic ball when everyone else was throwing whatever it was, black Udot or blue hammer or whatever, and one with a 14-pound plastic ball as soon as he switched to it. And that was it.
He told me to let you all know that screw all you guys. I made 2 shows using my thumb, but nobody remembers that.
Ah, really?
Good point. Yeah, I knew he bowled with his thumb in it first, and he went home. Him and Bob Benoit did the same thing. They bowled with their
Bob,
thumb.
I knew Bill with his
Bob
thumb.
never made any shows with his thumb in it. Then Bob was double jointed, kept his thumb in it, but put the ball in his palm. Mike is strong as an ox, and just he basically bowled normally. It's like Doherty. Like if you didn't really know, you'd like he's just got his thumb in it with a short backswing.
It's like his wrist is cut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mike could really bowl. Shot 300 on TV. One of the funniest guys and scariest guys I ever bowled with on tour. Sometimes within minutes of each other.
Yeah.
But if you ever go to the New Mexico Open and ask Mike about the pattern, his response is always the same thing, no matter what, every single year. You'll be fine. As long as you get out of it clean, you're fine. These guys who don't get out of it clean, they're screwed. That's what he says every time. So I finished the block and he goes, 8 200s. That's pretty impressive. And then he says, told you, just get out of it clean.
Yeah, what, not hang up in the thumb? Is that what he means? He eliminated the problem.
I needed easy slide. I must have. I needed something.
My grip got pretty tight when I was there. I can tell you that. They were hard.
Yeah.
Marcy says it'd be nice for me to drive a Ford. I do drive a Ford. It's an Explorer with 150.
A new Ford was what she meant.
Yeah, I'd like to be driving a new Ford. I don't know. If he won it, I might have a hard time, there's a negotiation going on.
Right.
So, but Purple Quantum. There you go. Don't go outside of 5. Yeah, no kidding. Not in that building.
But, okay, well.
It's tied up. I got some bowling to do out here.
Yeah.
You can see, got 2 lanes, storm facility. This place is awesome. You got stuff on the board. We got Specto. You got all the tools and all the toys and the best minds in the business. So we're going to get to it and drill a few balls and try and get smarter, if not better. And
drill some talent.
That's right. These guys got their hands full. So with that, thanks, Steve, for joining us. Former teammate, one of the best guys in the business, one of the best minds in the business, and another reason why Storm is the bowler's company. So thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Any last words you'd like to throw out there?
No, it was just great. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to connect with you guys. Enjoy seeing you guys. Enjoy having you here, Chris. Maybe we'll get you out here, Stu, as well. If you ever get in a pickle and you can't shoot 8 200 games at the New Mexico Open, you can come out here and we'll hook you up. So.
Yeah, no.
On the both ends of the spectrum right now, how we're feeling on tough conditions. So
yeah.
It's okay. I was feeling very different about those tough conditions on the Sunday. I was a little up in my feelings about it.
All right. Well, with that being said, bowling business is going pretty well, but support those small businesses and bowling centers, help them get through. League season is coming up. So, when you get a chance, support the sponsors that support us. First and foremost, Storm, Rotogrip, 900 Global, Vice, Coolwick, 3G Shoes, Bowler's Mart, Mark Baker Bowling, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Platinum Ford, and Lightning Strikes. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
See you later.